So the lesson for today, the importance of living out what we believe in. One of the things that bothers me and makes me sad is when I am talking, when I have a conversation with someone who is not a church attendant person, a person who does not go to church very often, and is telling me that the reason is because he or she knows someone who goes to church consistently but does not live accordingly to what that person believes. It's made me sad. It's made me sad because I have heard that several times in my ministry. And every time that I hear it, it is like one more person telling me the same thing. It is a reality. It is a reality. There is a study that I wanted to share with you today. This study was done by the Barna Group, Barna Research Group, and his president, David Kinnaman, was the one leading this study about the perception of non-Christians about Christians. There are several studies, by the way, on the same subject, on the same topic. The sad part is that all of them reach out more or less the same conclusion. Listen, the goal for this study, the goal was to determine whether Christians have the action and attitude of Jesus as they interact with others, or if they are more akin to beliefs and behavior of Pharisees, the self-righteous sect of religious leaders described in the New Testament. That was the goal. These people wanted to know, are Christians living more accordingly to what Jesus taught, or are Christians living more according to the Pharisees in the Bible? The Pharisees in the Bible, for those who are new to Christianity, are the group of religious leaders in time of Jesus who were self-righteousness. And Jesus condemned them several times for their hypocrisy. Interesting enough, in this study, they got to the conclusion, because this study was done with Christians, and then they did the conclusions, how Christians act and how Christians do things in their daily life. The study got to the conclusion to most Christians are not living according to what they believe in. And that is sad. And that is sad. In the book of James, the lesson for James today is, if you are a Christian, you have to live according to the Christian principles that Jesus taught in the Bible. That is exactly what the lesson for James is today for us. In James chapter 1, verse 22, it said, but prove yourself doers of the word, are not merely hearers who delude themselves. This is the clear lesson from James today. You have to do what you believe in. That is so clear in the book of James this morning. Now, here is the thing though. Most people say that they believe in God. Most people say that. Now, I have to tell you this. It is important not only to believe in God, but to have a personal relationship with God. So what I want to tell you is that it is not enough to know about God. It is not enough to know about religion. It is not It is not enough to know about that all the ordinances and all the teachings that are in the Bible. It is not enough to know those teachings. James is telling us we have to be doers of the word. Now the question is, what is a doer of the word, Pastor? What does that mean? What it means to be a doer of the word? Let me tell you two things. Number one is someone who wants to learn about God. Somebody who is a doer of the word is always learning more and more about God. The more you read the Bible, the more you're going to learn about God. That's one thing. But number two is someone who is willing to obey and follow what the word is teaching him or her. You see, one thing is to read the Bible, and a different thing is to put that into practice in your daily life. Verse 25 of James said this, verse 25. But one who looks intently at the perfect law, the law of liberty, and abide by it, not having become a forgetful hearer, but an effectual doer, this man will be blessed in what he does. You see, it is not enough to read the Bible, to know about God, or to feel that you are into the right religion. You have to be willing to do it. And not only be willing, but James said, an effectual doer. I mean, not only be willing, but somebody who really does it, that follow this. Now, James is presenting here two concepts: a false religion and a true religion. Now, this is kind of a tricky question in here, because if you ask, what is the right religion, Pastor? James is going to give us the answer, and maybe not the answer that you may be expecting. So basically, James is presenting here two different religions, okay? One is false and one is true. What is the false religion? Number one, this person knows about God, as most people say they do. Second, this person listens to the word of God. The third, this person knows and listens, but does not do it. Does not do it. That's why here in the book of James, it said this: for anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror. For when he has looked at himself and gone away, he has immediately forgotten what kind of person he was. You see, this person listen, read, and forget about it. And forget about it. Let me stop in here for just a moment. We're not attending church in person. Most churches are doing online services right now. But right before the pandemic, what was your situation? James is telling us, he is giving the warning about this false religion. Somebody who goes, listen, read, but forget about what have listened and read about it. And there is something specific that James is also pointing out on verse 26. If anyone thinks himself to be religious and yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceive his own heart, this man religious is worthless. Worthless. I mean, it's not going to help him or her at all if that person who sees himself or herself as a religious person does not have control over his or her tongue. That religion is worthless. It's not going to help out this person. Especially now in the context of the true religion and the false religion, for James, maybe one of the most important indicators of your religion is going to be, what do you say to others? Isn't that something? It is so important. Look carefully about what you are going to say. And then he said, look intently in the law, in the perfect law, the law of freedom, the law of liberty. Oh, I wish that I could have the time to go in detail into that law that James is talking about here, specifically about the law of liberty. So that is the false religion, right? Knows about God, listen to the word, but does not do. This person does not live out what this person is listening and reading and hearing. And also this person does not control his or her mouth. Those are indicators of the false religion. How about the true religion? In the same book, same verse, James said this, verse 26. No, verse 27. Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this. James is saying here, listen carefully. Listen carefully. I am going to tell you what is the pure and true religion. Listen to this. To visit orphans and widows and their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. That is the true religion. You see, when I said earlier that this might not be what you want to hear about the true religion, my friends, has nothing to do with the name, the title of the church outside of the building. And James is giving us the characteristic of someone who is in the true religion. If you notice the verse, it has to do with giving yourself out to others. And when James is talking about the law of liberty and freedom, it is exactly talking about the same thing in here. Because let me tell you this, the law of liberty that James is talking about, it is the law of love. That is exactly what James is talking about. The law of love of God in your heart, in my heart. That is the true religion. Now, in this context, James is talking about poor people in his time. He's talking about the orphans and widows. In the book of the law, in the Old Testament, it was clearly indicated that they were supposed to, and they had to take care of the orphans, the widows, and also the foreigners people from other countries that come to live into the land of Israel. It's clearly indicated in the law. That's why James is talking about the taking care of the orphan and the widows and staying unstained by the wall. Oneself keeping unstained by the wall. Now, here's my question. Who could be the orphans and the widows for us today in our day? Who God wanted to take care of in our day? You may not any orphan, probably. You may know a widow, or you may not know a widow. And again, in this context, these were the people who needed a lot of help. My question is, who is the people who in our day need a lot of help? Who they might be. And I can think about, for instance, let's say, single moms. There are so many women who are doing the double role, being a mom and being a dad. I know specifically many of them when I was teaching at the school, many moms who were working 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, because they need to provide for their children, for her children. I also know many people, older people, who are living only what they receive from the Social Security check. And I know many who has a very, very small Social Security check, getting month by month. Is there anything that you can do about it? Is there anything that I can do about it? We are not going to be able to help everyone who is in trouble, right? Maybe we can make the difference in one person at a time. People who are sick. Look at now, especially now, God is giving us a precious opportunity. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't know too many people who had been affected by the COVID-19. Now I do. Now I do. And maybe you do too. Maybe now you hear more and more people that you know being affected in one way or another by COVID. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to be witness of the love of God with these people who are suffering. Even though if not everybody is dying, but still people who had COVID, they are not able to go out and work. And the bills keep stacking up and food needs to be in the table. All of that. You can think of whoever you want to in your own reality, in your own context, who may need your help. James is telling us, you are a doer of the word. When you are living the true religion, and the true religion at the end of the day is to give out yourself for others. And keep in the solid rock with your faith. Keep it being there in Jesus Christ. I mentioned this before. One of the things that I try to follow in my Christian life, and please, by all means, I am not a perfect Christian, but I try to live with this thinking. What would Jesus do if Jesus could be on my shoes? What would Jesus do in these days with people? Where would Jesus go today if he could be in here? Where he could be? Comforting family members of somebody who had COVID, helping out on a shelter, helping out in a food bank, giving food to people, praying with somebody who is sick. I know that in the COVID, we're very limited on what we can do. A phone call sometimes would be enough. Brother and sister, the lesson of James for today is practice your faith. Practice what you believe in. Be a living testimony of love, of God love in your heart, and give out to those in need. That is the lesson for today. Let us pray.